Kelechi Oba ran barefoot down the congested streets of Ibadan, dodging cars and street vendors, his chest heaving up and down like a drumbeat. Shouts trailed behind him, "Thief! Thief!" Eyes widened as people turned, pointing at the dusty boy running as if his life depended on it. A vendor selling oranges spilled her tray and let out a shriek. In a matter of seconds, a police officer spotted him and pursued him. Kelechi sprinted into a narrow alley, his heart racing, his lungs on fire, but he stepped on a loose stone and fell with a thud. Before he could get up, two officers pushed him down, clapping handcuffs on his wrists behind his back. His face scraped against the dirt. A stinging pain erupted in his shoulder. A crowd gathered in seconds. Phones were whipped out. Everybody wanted to record the moment. "Useless boy. These street rats will never learn. He deserves prison," someone muttered. The older officer yanked him up roughly and snatched his old tattered backpack. "What's in here?" he barked. Kelechi said nothing. His lips quivered, eyes locked on the ground. The officer shook the bag like it owed him money, then ordered, "Empty it right now. Let's see what you've stolen." Kelechi said nothing. The officer unzipped the bag himself and rummaged in the chaos. Crumpled clothes, a snapped pen, scraps of food, torn notebooks until his fingers halted. Something deep inside was wrapped in aged newspaper, folded and guarded with care as if it was more important than anything else in existence. Interested now, the officer slowly unfolded it. The crowd was silent, even the screaming ceased. It contained a tiny black box. It flashed with miniature lights. Wires wound around the edges, linking buttons, sensors, and unidentified parts. "Is that a bomb?" someone whispered. The second officer stuck his hand inside and discovered a creased sheet of paper marked in unsteady handwriting. "Autonomous alert sensor for rural medical clinics." Confused, the officers looked at each other. This wasn't stolen jewelry or a phone. It was something else entirely, something no one expected from a so-called street thief. Kelechi, still on his knees, whispered, "It's my project." No one had an idea what to say. In 24 hours, the same project would blow on news outlets and social media platforms, making Kelechi from an unnamed boy pursued through filthy streets the name on everybody's lips. Kelechi Oba was the type of boy nobody paid attention to. Born in Lagos's slums of Ibadan, his existence started in silence and hardship. His mother, who battled mental illness, would speak to shadows and wander aimlessly. His father, a mystery, gone before he could say his first word. When he was 7, his mother left one morning and never returned. No goodbye, no trace, just an empty corner in the one-room shack they shared. Left to fend for himself, Kelechi survived. He initially shined shoes on street corners, waiting for loose change. When that no longer worked, he cleaned dusty car windows at stoplights, avoiding curses and spinning tires. Then there was begging grudgingly, quietly, never eyeing people. By the age of 13, he had no place to call home. He merged with the other lost boys beneath the third mainland bridge. They slept on cardboard, used nylon to cover themselves from rain, and took turns keeping watch not to get robbed or beaten. Even at that existence, Kelechi was unusual. He was hungry, but not for food. He was hungry for learning. He retrieved yellowed newspapers from street gutters, reading them line by line, discovered haft, worn books in dumps, and read them like precious things. At times he snuck into public libraries and sat silently in the corners, reading until people noticed and chased him out. Then, one day, when he was 15 years old, he spotted a broken laptop discarded outside an office building. The screen was cracked open. Some keys were missing, but he hauled it around like gold. He cleaned it, wrapped it in plastic, and lugged it with him every day. At cyber cafes, when other people visited to gamble or use Facebook, Kelechi requested to view YouTube videos. He typed with 3 fingers tutorials about electronics, coding, circuits. He replayed them over and over again, memorizing every detail. He never said a word to anyone about what he was doing, not the boys he shared meals with, not the pepper soup woman who gave him the leftovers at night. It was his secret rebellion against the life he had been born into. He had one dream: if I do something that makes a difference, maybe someone will see that I am alive. He didn't steal, he never did, but the world didn't notice. All they noticed was another barefoot boy on the street. To them, he was just another thief in waiting. The mood at the police station quickly changed. What had begun as a routine arrest had now turned into something odd and unusual. Officers hovered around the table where the black item sat. Some were afraid to reach out and touch it. Others whispered speculations. Nobody knew precisely what it was, but it certainly wasn't stolen jewelry or a phone. Inspector Iodel, the head inspector, entered with a serious expression. "What's the commotion about?" he asked. An officer told him what had occurred on the street, how they had discovered the odd device in the boy's backpack. Iodel cocked an eyebrow and leaned closer to examine it. The flashing lights, the wires, and the hand scrawled tag on it caught his interest. He unfolded a sheet of paper that was discovered within the case. The title wrote, "Autonomous Alert Sensor for Rural Medical Clinics." Underneath was a carefully drawn diagram of how the device operated. More astounding, though, was the envelope stuck to it, perfectly labeled, "To the Director, African Innovation Prize, Lagos." Iodel's eyes widened in amazement as he gazed at the letter. "This boy sent this," he said. The officers nodded slowly. "We thought he was only a street thief," one of them explained. Iodel didn't say anything right away. He sat there, brooding. Then he took out his phone and went outside. He called someone in the Ministry of Science and Technology, a man he had met at a conference many years ago. He laid it all out: the arrest, the gadget, the message, the name of the boy. The line was silent for a while on the other end. Then a shocked voice said, "Let me get back to you." That evening, Dr. Ifoma Okafor, the director of the African Innovation Prize, was just closing her laptop when her phone rang. She was tempted to ignore it, but something compelled her to pick it up. On the phone was a police officer from Ibadan. His tone was grave. He said they had detained a young boy that morning for theft, but in his bag they discovered a peculiar electronic gadget. He called it blinking, wired, and painstakingly constructed. There was a handwritten letter as well to her. Ifoma heard silently, not knowing what to believe. She got a lot of such letters. Some were jokes, some were unrealistic, and some untraceable. Then the officer dropped the name, Kelechi Oba. Her heart skipped. Weeks, perhaps months ago, she had gotten a letter delivered with no return address. It was scrawled in shaky handwriting and included crude diagrams. The concept was genius: a sensor that would detect motion and could alert rural medical personnel when someone came in at night. Rural hospitals tended to have no one there at night, or no method of knowing someone was in need of assistance. This kid had a solution, but the submission was imperfect. No phone number, no contact information, nothing to follow up on. So it had been put on a shelf like many others. And now this policeman was informing her that the kid who wrote this letter had not only constructed the device but had been apprehended for carrying it. She did not have any other questions. She took her keys, tossed on a jacket, and drove off in her car. The streets were deserted. She drove fast through the darkness, her thoughts whirring. Who was this boy? How had he been able to construct something like that? And why had no one noticed his potential before this? When she arrived at the police station, it was near midnight, yet she was not exhausted. She was bent on seeing the boy behind the letter which never left her thoughts.